Hi there, this is George, your weekend traveler, and welcome to the city of Richmond, Virginia. Richmond, the state capital of Virginia, home of Jefferson Davis and the Confederacy, and to world-class lodging and dining, plus attractions. We take a look at what this fine city has to offer. It is bright and early on a Monday morning as I make my trek up towards the Museum of the Confederacy, passing through old streets, major intersections, and the medical campus of VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University Medical Center. It is on this campus that your eyes will set eyes on a magnificently designed building. Built in 1845, the Egyptian building is a historic college building home to the first permanent medical department of Hampton-Sydney College, and is now part of Virginia Commonwealth University. It is considered by architectural scholars to be one of the finest surviving Egyptian revival-style buildings in this nation. The St. Philip's Way includes a nod to the antiquity. Students of the health science schools are reminded of the Western origins of the health arts when they see the statue of Hippocrates or recite the Hippocratic Oath. The Virginians of Greek ancestry presented the marble bust of Hippocrates, created by Greek painter and sculptor Melanios Katafigotis, to Virginia Commonwealth University in 1985. And yes, I butchered that Greek name, but I tried the hardest. As we continue on forward through the campus of Virginia Commonwealth University, we make it to the Museum of the Confederacy. Once inside, your eyes will fall upon artifacts that only the South would be proud of. But before we give you a sneak peek of what this museum has to offer, we must gaze upon the house that stands adjacent to the museum itself. Built in 1818 as a residence of Dr. John Bruggenbrough, this National Historic Landmark is best known as the White House of the Confederacy from 1861 to 1865. President Jefferson Davis and his family lived here until the Confederate forces evacuated Richmond on April 2, 1865. After serving 5 years as the headquarters of the Federal occupation troops, the house became one of Richmond's first public schools. In 1890, the Confederate Memorial Literary Society saved the mansion from destruction, and between 1896 and 1976 used it as the Confederate Museum. The society restored the house to its wartime appearance and reopened it to the public in 1988. But let's get back to the museum. The museum houses more than 15,000 documents and artifacts, along with 500 original wartime battle flags from the Confederate States of America. Among the thousands of other important pieces found here are items owned by such prominent figures as Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederacy, Robert E. Lee, Thomas Johnson Jackson, Jeb Stuart, Joseph Wheeler, Wade Hampton, plus many others. The Provisional Confederate Constitution and the Great Seal of the Confederacy are also housed here as well. The museum covers about 3 floors, including some personal effects of civilians from Richmond area during the Reconstruction period after the Civil War. Now, the museum and the fully restored White House of the Confederacy are surrounded by the VCU Medical Center and share parking with the hospital. If you wish to find out more about the museum and the cost plus hours, there will be a link that you can check in the description of this video for more information. Expect to spend up to 1 to 2 hours to fully tour the museum and the White House itself. Walking towards an older district of Richmond with beautifully lined homes on both sides of the cobblestone street, you gaze upon this home, Wickham House, owned by prominent attorney John Wickham. He would live at this location beginning in 1790. A prominent lawyer by trade, he was most famous for helping defend Aaron Burr against treason charges in 1807. The house would later be turned into a museum called the Valentine Museum, which you can visit today, but sad, it was closed on Monday, so I'll save it for next time. Our next stop in Richmond is to the grounds of the state capitol, known as Capitol Square. Inside the square, you will see various statues and waterworks, even the governor's mansion. One statue, though, stands out above the rest, the George Washington Monument. The Virginia Washington Monument is an equestrian statue located adjacent to the Virginia State Capitol in Capitol Square. In 1858, it became the second equestrian statue of George Washington to be unveiled in the United States. The cornerstone of the monument was laid in 1850 during the American Civil War. It was the location for the inauguration of Jefferson Davis as President of the Confederacy, and later incorporated into the design of the Great Seal of the Confederate States. It was not completed until after the war in 1869, though the monument features a 21-foot, 18,000 bronze statue of George Washington on horseback. The base of the monument includes statues of 6 other noted Virginians, including Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, Andrew Lewis, John Marshall, George Mason, and Thomas Nelson Jr. Now, the reason we did come here was to view the splendor of one of America's top 10 buildings that changed America, and it was ranked at number 1, the Virginia State Capitol. As a founding father of the United States, Thomas Jefferson was passionate about America's independence from Britain. He was no fan of King George and not a fan of Georgian architecture that bore the king's name. So when the state of Virginia needed a new government building, Jefferson, a self-taught architect and former governor of that state, took his inspiration from a source very far removed from the British colonial architecture of the day. Serving as America's minister to France at the time, Jefferson visited the Maison Carrée, a classical Roman temple in southern France dating back to 16 BC. He thoroughly entranced by this monumental ancient structure, describing it as the best morsel of ancient architecture now remaining. Jefferson hired the French architect Charles Louis Clarisseau to draft a design for a similar building in Richmond. He even commissioned and sent back to the United States a scale model that is displayed at the Virginia State Capitol to this day. The Virginia State Capitol was Jefferson's Declaration of Independence from the British architecture. Its influence is seen in more than 2 centuries of neoclassical government and commercial buildings across America, from local banks and post offices to the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. So, we checked into our hotel. The hotel is called the Berkeley Hotel. It's located in downtown Richmond. Now this hotel is reasonably priced. And of course, they got a room with one bed. It's a king bed. Not pretty bad. Not bad at all. I have a little break here, and then I get to go back out and see if I can find some good lunch. Some food, some local cuisine. Ask for recommendations. Of course, they do have a little place here where you can drink and whatnot, and have food, but might be a little bit pricey. But hey, we're in Richmond, so. And with every hotel I stay in, I like to give it a little tour of what the hotel looks like, because a room is a room, and you gotta get good ratings. Of course, I've already made it my own. Of course, our view from this hotel is not bad, except you see building and buildings, but that's okay because it's on the 6th floor, and that's pretty darn good. Let's check out the closet space. We got a safe, we got closet space. Let's check out this bathroom. Wow. This bathroom is pretty cool, I'll have to admit. Yes, you can see me. Hi there. But all of the amenities, Berkeley, dear guests. Shower, toiletries, whatnot. Hair dryer, some photos. And of course, they got a Keurig coffee maker. Oh, how about that? But the last thing that I like to do, that I've learned from a fellow friend of mine, is you always want to test out the bed, the comfort of the mattress, like so. Success! The mattress is comfortable, the bed is luxurious. I can just fall asleep right now. But unfortunately, I have other things that we have to do. So, with the hotel bed and checking in taken care of, I am able to make my way to find food in Richmond. Walking down by the canals, I ran into this restaurant and bar called Tap House Southern Railway. So let's check out some of their food because I'm hungry and I've been walking all morning. So, food time. So for lunch, I came to the place called the Tap House Southern Railway. And the food here is very good. I got myself a bison burger. And boy, is this meat fantastic. That was a good burger. Excuse me. The meat is made locally. Very good meat. And as well as local brew. This is called pumpkin October, something like that. That's good. So if you're ever in Richmond, I'm looking for a good place to eat, come to the Tap House down by the waterfront. They have good food. Well, I'm gonna get back to eating. A little different technique for filming, but we're down by what we now call the waterfront, or Triple Crossing, Main Street Station. Well, this is essentially the canal walking. As you can see over here, they turn this into a beautiful walkway on both sides that you can enjoy a fantastic view and walk up this lovely canal. So let's actually take a look at this riverfront canal. It's supposed to be historical and whatnot. So let's check it out. Food in our bellies, we now take you to the Canal Walk, stretching over 1.25 miles along the James River in the Kanawha and Haxel canals. The Canal Walk represents 4 centuries of Richmond's history, interpreted through medallions, monuments, and exhibits. You will learn about Virginia's fish that can be found in the James River, to the use of this canal in the 1800s. Alright, so this used to be part of an old lock system like they had where they were canals. Boats would rise up, the water would come down, they would fill with water to lower the boat or rise it up to the next level. This is pretty cool. It is now a walking trail, about 3.1 miles or so, 13 miles, I don't know exactly how long, but it is a fantastic walking trail. So if you're in Richmond and decide to take a walk, come check out the canals. We now leave the rushing waters of this section of the canal and head for higher ground. As we continue making our way down the canal walk, you will run into beautiful artwork and sculptured statues. The Christopher Newport Cross, located on the canal, is just one of many sculptures you will run into. On May 24th, 1607, Captain Christopher Newport and a party of explorers who had landed at Jamestown just days earlier arrived at the site of the modern-day Richmond and planted a cross in honor of King James I of England. In recognition of the significance of this area's early history, the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities erected this cross in 1907 on the tercentenary of Christopher Newport's visit. Across the way, you will notice colorful street art and murals adorning the flood walls and the building of the old power plant. The RVA Street Art, part of a street art festival that took place on April 14th, 2012, which brought together more than a dozen national street artists who created this outdoor gallery along the James River Power Plant building and flood wall. The goal was to show the creative power of street art, liven up the flood wall, and attract people and tourists to the outdoor art gallery, as well as showcase the canal walk in the Shockoe neighborhood. With a total of 3-point-some miles walked, it felt like it should have been at least 4 blocks, but it only was 2 blocks from the hotel where I was staying. Go figure. My feet are tired and achy from all this walking, so it's time to go back and rest before I prepare for dinner in Richmond. Alright, so I had time to rest, and now it is about 5:51 p.m. at night. Gave a few hours for me to rest, and now it's time to go out and let's explore some of the evening food, the dining, and the nightlife that Richmond has to offer. So come join me. Hills. So many hills in the city of Richmond. It is to some murder, but be prepared for a lot of exercise and going uphill a lot. Just a fair warning. To say the soul food that I'm going for is the best darn soul food I've had. If it's all this walking, it better be worth it. We'll find out soon. The food is calling me. Southern comfort food, aka soul food. The creme of the crop. The best Richmond has to offer, or at least that is what I was told. We make out our way 28 blocks. Yes, a 28 block trek to Mama J's because the locals say it is the best darn southern food that will grace your mouth this side of Richmond. I am almost to the soul food. I'm just less than a few blocks away. It's so exciting. So, boy, all this exercise I'm getting. Well, let's see. Oh, look, that is such cool street art. You can only find it down in Richmond. Almost there. At last, we made it. Mama J's. The best darn southern comfort food this side of Richmond. Or at least that's what the locals say. I was going to film some of the inside, but instead, I'm going to plaster here a picture of what I ate. Take a look at this food. The fried chicken. The homemade mac and cheese. Oh my goodness. Sorry if I'm making you hungry or forgot the homemade cornbread. Only you can experience it though. In Richmond at Mama J's Soul Food. It was worth the 28-block walk. Alright, well this will end day one of my adventure down in Richmond. Now, we will pick up on day 2 tomorrow. So I'll see you guys in the morning. Oh, what a beautiful morning. It is now day 2. I've been up for a while enough to take a shower and get changed and packed. Now, I'm going to check my bag in and leave it sit here along with my car while I go out. And I'm going to go get some breakfast because I'm quite famished. I'm hungry. And then we're going to make our way over to Hollywood Cemetery. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the only thing that we do that's today, but we may have time for some other things. But for now, let's go check out the Hollywood Cemetery and get breakfast. Alright, so she recommended I go check out a place called Urban Farmhouse Market and Cafe. So she says they have some decent breakfast, so I have no idea what the breakfast is going to be like, but let's go check it out. We head over to the Urban Farmhouse Market and Cafe. The look from where I was sitting inside is absolutely beautiful. It looks out onto the street, onto this bustly Tuesday morning. The food itself and the coffee is fantastic. The coffee is local made Virginian coffee, mostly probably organic. And the food itself, to die for. I got the ham and egg sandwich. It is locally grown, antibiotic-free, Virginia free-raised ham and steroid antibiotic-free ranged egg. Put in the middle between 2 slices of wheat bread, you have some apple slices, and a little bit of orange. A good way to start your morning. It must have been good, because I left nothing in sight on that plate, and that coffee went down like golden liquid. So let's continue our adventure this morning as we call an Uber taxi and make our way to the Hollywood Cemetery, our first stop. Alright, I am at the historic Hollywood Cemetery. Now, this is the only thing I do today. It is worth it. He said it's about 3 miles of walking, or you could drive. I could have driven through this cemetery, but I decided to do the peaceful, respectful thing and walk. I have a list, a map that shows you all of the locations of where I need to go with people that are of great importance. So, let's start our tour and let's take a look at Hollywood Cemetery. As you trek up the hill and around the corner, you will come face to face with this large monument made out of stone. It is the monument to the Confederate war dead. This famed 90-foot pyramid stands at a monument to the 18,000 Confederate soldiers buried in Hollywood Cemetery. It was created through the efforts of the Women of Hollywood Memorial Association, who tended the graves of the Confederate dead after the Civil War. They worked together to raise over $18,000 and commissioned the help of engineer Charles Henry Dimmock to design the pyramid. Making your way up the road a bit, you will notice many different graves, including this one here, honoring a Jewish dead from the Confederacy during the Civil War. But the grave we came this direction for is that of famed General George E. Pickett, who fought bravely during the Battle of Gettysburg and famous for saying on July the 3rd, "What troops, sir? I have no more men. They are all dead." A Confederate general during the American Civil War, he would go on to fight many of a few battles, only to return home to find he was wanted for treason. It would be a while later that General Grant said there would be no formal indictment. He would live in Virginia modestly, barely talking about the war until his death on July 30th, 1875, at the age of 50. Buried next door to his side is his wife LaSalle Corbell Pickett, where she now live in eternal loving peace and happiness in a great beyond. Off to the right of General Pickett is a lot called Gettysburg Dead. Buried here are the many Confederate soldiers and men who would have fought bravely on the 3 days in July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, only to end up dying and be interred here at Hollywood Cemetery. We salute you, brave soldiers. Our next stop is to pay tribute to another famed Confederate general, Jeb Stuart, and his wife Flora Cook Stuart. Jeb Stuart was the chief of cavalry of the Army of Northern Virginia during the American Civil War. Jeb is buried with his wife Flora, where you can see them both today. Presidents. Did someone say Virginia presidents? Well, 2 famous ones are buried in Hollywood Cemetery, including John Tyler, the 10th President of the United States, from April 4th, 1841 to March the 4th, 1845. And of course, Mr. James Monroe, the 5th President of the United States, serving between 1817 and 1825, most famous for writing what we know today as the Monroe Documents. The grave that is the highlight of our tour to Richmond is that of famed Confederate States of America President Jefferson Davis. It ties the whole tour that we took here to Richmond together, so this is very special indeed.
Well, we finally made it to the end of this cemetery. The most prominent figure besides presidents and generals we have here, Mr. Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederacy. Now, he played a pivotal role, as we learned on our tour in this video, that Mr. Jefferson Davis not only was he President of the Confederacy, but you see here with President West Point, of the House of Representatives, one of the first Mississippi rifles in the Mexican-American War. He was also U.S. Senate Secretary of War and U.S. Senate for a second time. Now, Jefferson Davis, it's just amazing to be here where he's buried. But not just Jefferson Davis, all around here are relatives of the Davis family, including Davis Hayes, because the one over here, his late daughter, or I guess his oldest daughter, changed his name to one of her sons, to Jefferson Hayes. So you see a lot of Jefferson Hayes represented around this cemetery.
With the excitement over, we make our trek out of the cemetery to head back to the hotel, but not before passing this beautiful mausoleum. It's called the Palmer Chapel in honor of E. Holcomb Palmer. And look at the beautiful stained glass. 1980 to 1988, president of Hollywood Cemetery. And inside, all the interned with their ashes from many wars, many years, and many lives that have been lost, that will be remembered. So if you look above, you'll see this beautiful candelabra. And walking outside, you will get this beautiful view of the James River itself.
Now, we're almost out of the cemetery to head back to the hotel to get my car. Fortunately, we'll leave Richmond. We'll maybe see a few things along the way if we have time. But behind me, this is your best view, as you can see, from the city of Richmond from afar. You have the river down there roaring, and it sounds lovely. It brings being here in the cemetery to light, paying remembrance to those who have lost and have died. But what can you say? This is probably one of the best views that you can get of Richmond so far.
Yes, as I mentioned, you get the beautiful view of downtown Richmond in the distance and of the James River. It is absolutely gorgeous. I think one of the best spots to see and view downtown Richmond from afar. You can even see the trestle bridges, including the canal that we walked just earlier yesterday. And there's a closer view at a different angle of downtown Richmond. But unfortunately, we now had to leave Hollywood Cemetery and make our trek back home as our tour comes to an end here in Richmond. As we leave the Berkeley Hotel to head home, we make one final stop at the River City Diner for lunch. The food here is to die for. It's what you call a mixture of 50s style dining with Southern food. Because I got the breakfast special. 3 eggs over medium with a side of grits. You can't be in the South unless you have good old grits. And you got yourself some fried potatoes. You got yourself some homemade biscuit and some sausage rounds. Good home Southern cooking, mixed in with a little American and a little 1950s style. That food was good. I couldn't finish it. I ended up taking it home. But if you're ever in Richmond, stop by the River City Diner for some good breakfast, because they do serve it 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Yummy. We have one more surprise stop for you to visit the monument of Stonewall Jackson. It would be at this plantation called the Fairfield Plantation that Stonewall Jackson would see his demise. He would die here on May the 10th, 1863, after being mortally wounded in the legs by his own soldiers in the heat of the night. But let's go take a look at the inside of Fairfield Plantation. It is this bedroom that Stonewall Jackson will die on May the 10th. The bed, the clock, and the chair, a few items in this room are original. This would be the room to his staff sergeant, or surgeon that took care of him while he was stationed at this house. And this would be Jackson's staff room, where all the staff members would get together and talk.
All right. We have seen the food and the sights, and what better way to end an adventure by visiting where Stonewall Jackson died, the very house that he would die that early morning. But it's been a fun time. We saw Richmond, we had some of the food, and we saw some of the sights. So, till next time, keep on traveling, weekend travelers.